You've heard the stories before. A stranger's name on the news, a ticket worth hundreds of millions, and you picture yourself in it for half a second before you scroll past. You've heard the other half too, the winners who went broke, who disappeared, who ended up exactly where they started, just louder about it on the way down. You never think it's you. Then your card gets declined for a $4 coffee under a gas station's buzzing light, and the ticket in your pocket, bought on a whim 2 days ago, starts matching numbers on your phone you didn't expect to matter. By the time you're standing in an unfinished kitchen on the water at Lake Travis, you'll understand exactly what the small box on that claim form actually cost you. It isn't money. Stay with this. Winning it in silence. The first number matches, then the second. You tell yourself it's the kind of coincidence that happens to other people. In headlines you scroll past on your lunch break. Then the third number lands, and your hand goes still against the pump display. Behind you, Marlene's ringing up a case of Bud Light for the guy at register 2, her scanner beeping in a rhythm that suddenly sounds very far away. You don't move, you don't breathe right. By the fifth number, your chest has gone tight in a way that has nothing to do with fear and everything to do with fear's quieter twin. The one that shows up wearing a different face entirely. 6 numbers, all 6. You don't say anything. That's the part that surprises you. Not the shock, the silence underneath it. No gasp, no calling out to the stranger at the next pump. You just stand there holding a ticket worth more than every house on your street combined, while Marlene asks the guy in line if he wants a receipt. You fold the ticket once, then again, until it's small enough to disappear into your front pocket. The one with the button, the one you never use. Your hands are doing this without asking your permission. Some older, quieter part of you already knows this ticket isn't something you show anyone yet. Not your partner, not your mother, not the woman 2 feet away buying beer, especially not her. You sit in your car with your hands on the wheel at 10 and 2, engine off, doing the math badly, the way people do math when they're not really doing math. $600 million. The number bolted under the gas price on the sign all week. The number you joked about with a coworker named Trevor 2 days ago. Both of you pretending your retirement accounts weren't a disaster. It wasn't a joke. It was you, standing in this exact spot, buying one ticket with the $6 you had left after filling the tank. You drive home past the church marquee that still says, "God sees you even on a Tuesday," past your own mailbox with the dent you can't afford to fix. Your porch light is on. Your partner's car is in the driveway, exactly where it always is. You sit in the driveway 4 full minutes before you go inside. Nothing in your kitchen has changed. Same water stain on the ceiling, same drawer that won't close all the way. You stand there holding a folded piece of paper that could buy the block, and you understand something you didn't expect to. The ticket isn't a windfall yet, it's a decision. The second you say the number out loud to anyone, it stops being yours to control. So you don't say it. Not tonight. You kiss your partner hello like it's any other Tuesday, and you go looking quietly for what it actually takes legally to make sure the world never finds out you did. Choosing anonymity. The attorney's office sits on the 9th floor of a glass building downtown, and the receptionist doesn't ask why you're there, which tells you Grant Whitfield sees people like you more often than his website would suggest. He shakes your hand once, sits you across a desk with nothing on it but a legal pad, and says the sentence that's been sitting under your ribs since the gas station. First thing, don't sign the back of that ticket. You look down at it, still folded in your pocket where it's lived for 3 days, and realize you almost had. Signing it makes it yours, publicly, permanently, the second anyone photographs it. Grant slides a blank claim form across the desk instead. Near the bottom, small enough you'd have missed it alone, there's a box. Prize winner elects to remain anonymous. He explains it like he's done this 40 times, because he has. Your state lets you check that box once the win crosses a certain size. This one clears it by a wide margin, but the box only holds if you also take the cash option instead of the annuity. Annuity payments release your name after 30 days. No exceptions. Lump sum and anonymity, or nothing. You ask what the cash option actually comes to. He turns his laptop around. The sign said $600 million. The number next to cash value on his screen is $264 million. Your stomach does something complicated. Not disappointment, more like vertigo. Watching $600 million lose more than half its size before you've spent a single cent of it. That's before taxes, he adds, in the voice a doctor uses for a diagnosis that's serious but survivable. What comes next isn't glamorous. An irrevocable trust, drafted this week, under a name that isn't yours. He suggests something forgettable, something you'd scroll straight past and you land on Cedar Fork Family Trust, after the creek behind the house you grew up in. The trust claims the prize. The trust name sits on the public record if anyone ever bothers looking. Yours doesn't. Who else knows? He asks. It isn't small talk. He needs the number. You think about it honestly. Your partner, eventually. Your mother, not yet. Not until you understand what telling her turns into. Trevor from work, never. 2 people, you say. He writes it down like it's a variable in an equation he's already solved 100 times. One where every additional name is a point of failure. He asks if you understand what you're agreeing to. Not the paperwork, the shape of the next several years. No public reveal, no local news segment with an oversized check, not answering the door to relatives you haven't spoken to since a wedding in 2019. Just a signature, a trust, and a life that looks from the outside exactly like it did last Tuesday. You sign where he points. The pen feels heavier than it should. Walking out, you're not a lottery winner in any way the world can see. You're a person in business casual, riding an elevator down to a parking garage, holding a folder instead of a check, because the check, and everything it costs you to receive it, is still 2 signatures and 1 very large number away. Taxes cut it in half before you feel a thing. You're sitting in your car in the same parking lot you work in 5 minutes before your lunch break ends, refreshing a banking app that hasn't updated all week. Your badge is still clipped to your shirt. Somewhere on the 3rd floor, your desk still has a sticky note reminding you to call a vendor back, because on paper, you're still just a person with a 9 to 5 and a lunch break about to end. Then the number loads. $201,038,412. You don't move. A guy from accounting walks past your windshield carrying a takeout bag and doesn't look twice. There's nothing to see. A person in a Honda Civic staring at a phone, same as anyone checking a score or a text. He has no way of knowing that number just replaced every version of your future you'd quietly given up on. It's not $264 million. Grant warned you about that. Your new CPA, a sharp, unhurried woman named Denise Okafor, brought on the same week, walked you through exactly why. The IRS takes 24% off the top automatically the moment the trust claims the prize. No negotiating, no waiting, just gone before the money is technically yours to spend. On $264 million, that's a little over $63 million, vanished into federal withholding before you've bought a single thing. But Denise had told you, in the same calm voice she probably uses for worse news to worse people, that 24% isn't the real number. It's a deposit. A win this size pushes you straight into the top federal bracket, 37%, and the rest comes due when you file. She'd done the math out loud, tapping a calculator like it was nothing. $264 million at 37% is just under $98 million owed to the federal government. Full stop, no matter how you slice the timeline, which means the number sitting in your account right now isn't even the final one. It's a placeholder. The real number, after everything the IRS is owed, lands closer to $166.6 million. There's a small mercy in it, and Denise made sure you understood it as one. Your state doesn't tax lottery winnings at all. One of only 9 that can say that. Buy that same ticket 40 minutes across the state line, or worse, somewhere like New York, and you'd watch another 8, 9, 10% disappear on top of the federal hit. Here, what the IRS doesn't take, you actually keep. You sit with that number a long moment. $166.6 million. Quietly parked in an account with a trust's name on it. One that traces back to a creek nobody else remembers. It doesn't feel like winning. It feels like surviving something with your bank balance intact. Your lunch break ends in 90 seconds. You lock the phone, clip your badge straighter, and walk back into the building like nothing happened. Because as far as the 11 people in that office know, nothing did. We're roughly at the halfway mark of this now. And this is usually the part where a windfall story stops being about the money and starts being about the hiding, which is exactly where you're headed. Because $166.6 million doesn't spend itself quietly. Something has to give first. Hiding wealth in plain sight. The watch boutique sits 2 hours from your house, which is exactly why you chose it. The man behind the counter, a soft-spoken guy named Preston, who's been doing this 11 years, doesn't blink when you point at the Daytona in the case. White dial, black ceramic bezel, the kind that used to have a wait list longer than most car loans. You pay by wire from an LLC he's never heard of. registered to an address he'll never visit. He wraps it like it's nothing. To him, it is. To you, it's the first physical proof any of this actually happened. You don't wear it home. It rides in the glove box the whole drive back. Because a $30,000 watch showing up on your wrist on a random Thursday is exactly the kind of detail Casey would ask about. And you don't have an answer yet that doesn't involve the word trust. The bag is different. That one you actually give her. A Birkin, Togo leather, gold hardware. You'd stood in the shop 20 minutes deciding. The way people who've never spent this kind of money on purpose second-guess spending it on purpose. You tell Casey it's a bonus, a good quarter, commission you'd been quietly saving toward. She believes you, because there's no reason not to. And you watch her run a hand over the leather with a kind of joy that makes your chest hurt a little. Because the story you just told her is the first real lie you've said out loud since the gas station. The Range Rover comes next, registered to the LLC 2. Black, long wheelbase, sitting in your garage like a secret that costs $200,000. You don't drive it to work. You don't drive it to your mother's. It stays parked, plates registered to a business entity with your name nowhere in its paperwork. Driven maybe twice a month, always somewhere far enough from anyone who knows you. None of it, not the watch, not the bag, not the car under a cover in the garage, is the part that actually matters. That part happens at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, at your kitchen table, after Casey's gone to bed. Denise walked you through the first real move that afternoon. Same unhurried voice she uses for everything. A chunk of the $166 million, parked into a low-cost index fund. The same boring instrument every financial advisor tells every actual person to buy, and almost nobody does. You stare at the confirmation screen a long moment. No wrapping paper, no Preston nodding approvingly. Just a number moving from one account to another, buying a tiny slice of 500 companies you'll never think about again. Growing or shrinking in a way that has nothing to do with whether you check on it. It's the least glamorous purchase you've made all month. And somehow, it's the only one that doesn't need an explanation. The only one Casey could see on a shared statement without asking a single question. Because to anyone glancing at it, it just looks like saving. Everything else you own now has a story attached to it. That one doesn't need one. And it's that gap between the things you have to explain and the one thing you don't that starts, without you noticing yet, to feel exactly like standing on a fault line. The night it almost ends. Casey's laptop is open on the kitchen counter when you walk in from getting the mail. She's not looking for anything, just trying to log into the shared airline account to book her sister's Thanksgiving flight. But your email autofills sometimes on that browser, a leftover habit from a phone you upgraded 2 years ago. She clicks the wrong tab, and an invoice loads instead of a boarding pass. NetJets owner services. Citation latitude, flight leg, $41,200. You're still holding the mail when you see her face change. "What is this?" she says. And it isn't really a question. It's the sound of someone doing math they don't want the answer to. You set the mail down slowly, the way you'd set down something that might go off. For one full second, you consider every version of a lie that could survive this. A co-worker's account, a mistaken charge, a scam email, and every single one collapses before you can say it. Because she's already scrolling, and there's another one under it, and another, going back 4 months. "Sit down," you say instead, and your voice comes out steadier than you feel, which surprises you almost as much as it does her. You don't tell her everything. Not the number, not yet, not the trust, not Grant's office on the 9th floor. You tell her the smallest true thing you can manage, that you won something, that you've been figuring out how to handle it carefully, that you were scared telling her would change something between you before you'd even worked out how to hold it yourself. She doesn't say anything for a long moment. She just looks at you the way you'd look at someone you weren't sure you still recognized. "How long?" 7 months. You watch that number land on her the way the withholding number landed on you in the parking lot. Not disbelief, exactly. Something heavier. The specific ache of realizing the person across the table has been carrying something enormous alone, on purpose, and choosing every single day not to hand her any of it. You told yourself the silence was protecting her. Sitting across from her now, it just looks like distance dressed up as care. She asks the number eventually. You tell her the $600 million on the sign, the $264 million in cash, the $166.6 million that's actually yours after the IRS took its share and the state took nothing. She doesn't react to the size of it the way you expected. She reacts to the 7 months. "I've been eating leftover takeout with you for 7 months," she says. Not quite a laugh, not quite something else. "While you had a Range Rover parked somewhere I've never seen." You don't defend it. There isn't a version of the defense that doesn't sound like what it was. You weighed her against the secret more than once. The secret kept winning. Nobody throws anything. She goes to bed early. You sit alone at the table where the index fund confirmation once felt like the safest thing you owned. And you understand, fully, for the first time, what Grant meant that day in his office. Every name you told was a point of failure. You'd counted Casey as the safe one. You just hadn't counted the cost of making her wait. The secret held. Something else, quieter and harder to price, didn't hold quite as well. Building it, quiet. 6 months after that night at the kitchen table, you're standing in a half-built house on a lot at Vineyard Bay. The stretch of shoreline where the water goes still and green at the edges of the lake. The listing was $14.2 million before you took it off the market. An LLC bought it, not you. The paperwork routed through Grant's office the same way everything else has for a year now. Casey's walking the frame of what will be the kitchen, running a hand along a stud wall, and for the first time since the NetJets invoice, she looks like she's imagining a life instead of interrogating one. You didn't buy this because you wanted people to see it. You bought it because from the water side, there's no road, no mailbox, no neighbor close enough to ask questions. Privacy, priced into the geography itself, which is its own kind of financial decision nobody puts in a brochure. Denise walked you through the rest of it on a call last month, same as always, unhurried and specific. The $166.6 million isn't just sitting in index funds anymore. A piece of it went into something duller and sturdier. A stake in a regional self-storage operation, the kind of asset that doesn't make headlines, doesn't need a website, just collects rent from people storing furniture between moves, month after month, whether the market's having a good week or not. There's a third piece too, one you asked Denise about specifically, a donor-advised fund under the trust, giving quietly to 2 things you actually care about. A scholarship at the community college near your mother's house, a housing program for veterans, 2 counties over. None of it has your name on it. None of it ever will, unless you decide someday that it should. Your mother still doesn't know. Neither does Trevor. Still 2 cubicles down from where your desk used to be, before you finally handed in your 2 weeks with a reason vague enough not to raise anything. You still buy gas at the same brand of station out of habit sometimes. Never that one. Not since the night the numbers matched. What you've built is real. The trust holds it. The storage facilities generate it. The index funds compound it quietly in the background. The house on the water will be finished by spring. On paper, it's exactly what Grant promised you in that glass office over a year ago. Protected, anonymous, growing. You think about the button on that front pocket again. The one you never used before that Tuesday at the pump, you use it now on everything. The watch rides in the glove box for the same reason the ticket rode folded against your hip that first night. Not shame, not even really secrecy, just the same motion, repeated, close it, so it stays exactly the size you decided it should be. A fortune this size doesn't ask to be seen. It asks to be fastened. It's the version of you that used to tell Casey everything, even the boring parts of a Tuesday, now filtering half of every sentence before it leaves your mouth. It's watching your mother worry over her property tax bill and saying nothing, because saying something means saying everything. It's Trevor complaining about his 401k match at lunch and you nodding along like a person who still needs one. You stand in the unfinished kitchen while Casey talks paint colors, and you realize the fortune isn't the hard part anymore. The hard part is smaller than that, and it doesn't have a dollar figure. It's the exact moment, still somewhere ahead of you, when someone you love asks the simple question again. And you'll have to decide one more time whether the truth is worth what it costs to say out loud. You know now what that small box on the claim form actually bought you. Not the watch, not the house on the water, the silence itself chosen on purpose over and over, every single time someone asked what's new. The fortune sits exactly where you built it, quiet, untouchable. What doesn't sit as easily is the version of you that used to answer a simple question without checking it first. Casey still doesn't know about the watch in the glove box. You tell yourself there's time. There's always a next conversation waiting closer than you think, where the truth costs more the longer you hold it. The ticket itself is in a safety deposit box now, still folded the same 2 times, in the same pocket-shaped crease it's had since a gas station on a Tuesday. You've never once needed to unfold it again. You've never once wanted to. What would you do? In the 90 seconds before your lunch break ended, If the number loading on your screen were real,